He's Eric.
And she's Kat.
And this is Pop Filter.
Welcome to Pop Filter, where you get all the geeky news, views, reviews, and interviews you can use. What are we going to be talking about today?
We're going to talk about some video games. But before we get to the meatiness of the video games, like God of War, no pun intended for Papa Kratos, we're going to talk about some of how we actually got involved with video games. So, for me, I mean, one of my first consoles is, if we're going to talk about consoles, and we don't want to go and discuss console wars, because that's when things get pretty toxic. I mean, you don't want to ever, it's like, if you're sitting around, like, the dinner table, you never want to bring up what's better, PS4 or Xbox, because people will explode.
Yeah, three things you don't talk about, politics, taxes, and the console wars.
Exactly. So, my first console was the original PlayStation and Game Boy. Because, I played Pokemon, and I grew up with that. And another one was Spyro the Dragon, as a lot of people do know already. And that was when, when I sat down and played the PlayStation, that's kind of when everything changed. Because it's a lot different when you're, looking into a Game Boy, and you're looking down, and you're, pressing buttons, and then actually looking at a screen while controlling the characters. So,
yeah.
On Spyro, the first scene I actually played was with, the skateboarding scene and everything, when he's, skateboarding with Hunter. That was the first ever time I played with Spyro, and I'm like, oh my god, this is awesome. Because it's totally different. You could sit down and relax. I mean, with a Game Boy, too, you can, but you're, looking at a small little screen compared to looking at a TV.
Right.
So, I mean,
and that's true. It's like looking at a Game Boy is almost looking down into a small board game versus a different world.
Yeah, yeah, and it's life-changing when you sit down for the first time and play a video game, because it's like you just said, you go into a totally different world and you meet these characters, and then they leave a huge impact on you.
And we used to have to fill in so much of the blanks ourselves with the polygon count that they had back in the day, and but now they're doing all these different lighting effects and stuff. But back then we had to, kind of smooth out the edges in our imagination.
I mean, if you compare it to give you an example, if you compare Hunter to what he looks like now with the remaster, it's insanely an amount. I mean, he used to look like, I remember I was watching this one YouTuber, I forgot, it's his name is Ant Dude, and he made this review of saying the difference between with Hunter and everything, and he couldn't wait until the remaster was coming out, and he's like, what is wrong with his design? His eyes would be buggy and everything. If you compare it then to now, but back then we didn't think anything of it because these characters meant so much to us.
Right, and well, that's the thing, it's like I said, our imagination kind of smoothed out the edges. If you think back, if you look at all these remastered, I just started playing, and I'm hate myself for admitting this. I just started playing Kingdom Hearts 1, the remastered version, because I have only ever finished one and played a third of
same!
two.
I've only finished one, and it was on the Nintendo DS. Same here.
Kingdom Hearts?
Yeah, it was for the DS. I forgot what it was called.
Which one was that?
I don't know. I forgot what it was called, but I remember that was my first one I played, and that got me into wanting to play the other ones. And I only ever played the remaster for the PS3, and it was just for the first few levels. But I'm in the same boat with you. I've never finished a Kingdom Hearts game.
I finished the first one. I finished the first Kingdom Hearts game way back when, and I played a third of the second one. And I hear that often. My roommate says the same thing. Everybody I talk to is like, oh yeah, I only ever played the first 1/3 of the second one.
And I hear a lot of people are also confused about the story, and now that the final has come, the big finale happened with Kingdom Hearts 4, now a lot of people say, I finally understand the story. So I'm like,
well, we'll see. That's my next mission, is to go through the entirety of the Kingdom Hearts series. But like I said, I played the first one way back when on the PS2, and with these remasters, it's amazing how much we remember them so much better than they were. I could swear what I'm playing now is how I remember the game, all the graphics and all the beauty of it. But I'm sure if I go back to the PS2, I'll be just like, oh my god, what the heck?
A huge before and after.
Yeah, but the nostalgia makes it look remastered. You always remember the characters for their great designs and not the polygon count.
Nostalgia is a huge, it kind of brings you on this journey to remember everything. I mean, look at the original Pokemon games. I mean,
now let me ask, which one was the one that you played first?
Yellow.
Which color?
Yellow, of course, because Pikachu.
Oh, good old Pikachu.
Yeah, because I mean, and now it's like you have Pokemon Let's Go, which one of the conversations that I love always bringing up is how people are always so excited on this one Pokemon game, I'm not sure which one it was, when your character can sit on a bench. So many people were like, oh my god, they're able to sit on a bench, because they could never do that in the original. So it's like, people like way back when, growing up with Pokemon and everything, we're the old timers now, the new
back
kids...
in my day, there were only 151 of them.
And now there's
them all
so
used to
many.
mean something.
It's so true though, because it's like, you look at the original, we were all like, yeah, awesome, we're gonna be the very best like no one ever was, and now it's like, how many different Pokemon are there? How many? And it's like, now
we're almost at 1,000. Yeah. I'm sure.
Oh my god.
We're almost at 1,000.
Oh my god. And they're so like the designs too. I swear someone's gonna have a chair. Like my editor Derek made a joke saying like, chair, you sit down. Which instead of take down, it makes so much sense, because there's like a light bulb Pokemon, there's like a computer type Pokemon. It's like everyday objects now kids can bond with, because they're gonna think
Bob,
that
your deadline's due for the new Pokemon. Who is it? Beer. That's a beer Pokemon.
It's just like the designs, like some of them are really cool, like some of the new ones, but some of them you're just like, that could have been avoided.
Yeah.
I mean, I for one, I'm always arguing that there should be more dragon Pokemon, but that's because of my love of Spyro.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Dargon. Give me more Dargon.
Exactly. But yeah, what were some of the consoles that you grew up with?
Well, my neighbors had like a Genesis and a NES on either side of me, so those were the ones that I grew up playing with them. I was always the second player, so, Luigi and Tails. Like, that was my lot, but I didn't care. I mean, who doesn't love Luigi and Tails?
I know!
Tails can freaking fly,
yeah, exactly.
and Luigi can jump higher, so,
Even though he always gets hurt and is made fun of.
Yeah, even though I was the older brother, I was the second player in the neighborhood. Exactly. It was weird. Yeah. So, the first console I ever got was a Super Nintendo, and of course it came with Super Mario World, and that instantly made me a Mario fan for life. And I've always been a Nintendo kid. I didn't have a PlayStation until the PlayStation 2 came out. And even then, that was kind of a fluke gift, a fluke Christmas gift, because it was the year that the PlayStation 2 was nowhere to be found on the shelves. So my parents were just like, "Oh, hey, he likes video games. This is a video game," and yeah. So I was just like, "How did you find this?" They're like, "What?"
Like, what? You can't find it? And you're just like, "Oh my god, it's a gem!" What were some PlayStation games that you first grew up with, though? I mean, like, on the PlayStation 2.
On the PlayStation 2, yeah. That was Final Fantasy X. My brother loved racing games and driving games, so Stuntman was one of my favorites. And a couple of the Burnout games, and then I was into wrestling games a lot, because I was a huge fan of WWE.
Which you're still a fan of wrestling?
Was it WWF at the time or WWE?
I don't know. You have to teach me about the wrestling world, because I'm still new at that.
We'll do the history of wrestling. Trust me.
Is that what you? Because I mean, like, let everyone know what you do now. I mean, it's really interesting what you do.
Oh yeah.
Now.
I mean, I do pro wrestling now. I train in it with a WWE superstar, Brian Kendrick. Yes, he can be found on 205 Live, the Cruiserweight show on Tuesday nights on the WWE Network. And he's been training me for about 3 years now, and he runs his own federation called Wrestling Pro Wrestling. Just very redundant, but it's kind of befitting because it's a comedy-style wrestling show.
That is so cool.
Kind of like Saturday Night Live. So we have characters like the Fromage Horseman instead of the Four Horsemen.
Oh my god!
And instead of Ric Flair, it's Ricotta Flair. Instead of Arn Anderson, it's Parm Anderson. It's all cheese puns.
Gosh.
And you may see a familiar looking and sounding character in there by the name of the Sassy Assassin.
Oh my gosh. And
so I've always loved wrestling because it was storytelling, and it was I mean, I can go on forever, but I'll do an episode later where I compare wrestling to anime, because the crossover is real, guys. We all sat at the same lunch table in high school.
I can't wait to hear about that. I can't wait to see the fan art coming in.
Oh, no.
Because then you talk about crossover. I've seen so many crossover fan art from different fandoms, and it's so awesome.
Oh my gosh! if somebody can draw a couple of my characters as wrestlers, I will probably happily commission that.
Oh my gosh! But would you say when did your love of wrestling start? Like before the video games, or did you always watch it?
It was kind of actually around the same time,
nice.
I think. Yeah, it was around the Attitude Era, which was in the mid to late 90s. It started in the mid to late 90s. And that was the era of Stone Cold, The Rock, and all these big personalities that have transcended wrestling, obviously. But I kind of got into it around the same time, I'd say. It was kind of parallel, because, again, there's so many parallel storytelling devices they use in wrestling, video games, anime. Yeah. It's all superheroes. It's all comic books. And it's all living out a power fantasy of bigger-than-life characters. So, how about you? So, when you started with Spyro, what evolved from there?
I mean, I was a big fan of Pokemon, and then I got more into Nintendo, like Animal Crossing. I remember when I had a GameCube. I mean, with the GameCube, I would say, a lot of people give love to the cute little cube.
I loved it. It was a great system.
I mean, I had like all these games for. I had Pokemon Channel, which is literally you take care of Pikachu, you watch TV with him.
I remember that one.
It's so fun and adorable. I am hoping they remake it on the Switch because it's kind of like. Remember the original Pikachu game? I forgot what it was. Hey You Pikachu?
Hey You Pikachu. Yeah. I had that. And it was
kind of like that. But Pikachu watched TV and you watch programs with Pikachu, which is all Pokemon related. And you grow berries and you meet all these other Pokemon. You collect cards. You play mini games. One of my favorite thing on video games is when you have the mini games within a video game.
Yeah.
Because it gives you the extra part of it. It's like you have Pikachu playing a Pokemon game and you're like, okay, is this canon? I mean, is there actually Pokemon games within the lore of Pokemon? So that always intrigued me. Yeah, and
I would assume so. Like, you've played Let's Go, right?
Yeah. Yep. I mean, speaking of Let's Go, I have over like 50 Pikachu now. I mean, my goal, because one of my idols. Okay, here I'm gonna reveal this here. One of my Pokemon idols is Lieutenant Surge, because he's the electric type Pokemon, and he has like that, that gruff type of personality. He kind of seems like he was probably a delinquent when he grew up.
Yeah.
And he's a Raichu. And okay, that whatchamacallit, the episode with Lieutenant Surge, his Raichu literally like abuses Pikachu, and you're like, okay, come on, calm down. And that is such an angsty like episode too, because he's like, hey, you gotta evolve your Pikachu, Ash. And Ash is like, I don't want to. I don't think Pikachu wants to either. It's like this 10-year-old has to go through so much with all these adults. Like, oh my god.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, like on Pokemon Let's Go, they even reference like, oh, I'm playing a video game. I'm trading Pokemon on this game, and you're like, what is real anymore?
Yeah, right. Like, they have his Switch. Like I love how every Pokemon generation they have the current generation console in the room of the
Yep.
And so it was the Switch in this one, and I noticed he had his blue Joy-Con. I'm like, where the heck is your red Joy-Con, dude?
Yeah.
And I realized it wasn't until like halfway through the game I realized he's holding the red Joy-Con because he's using it to throw Pokeballs like I am.
It's one of those facepalm moments. Oh, I guess no, but what I love about Pokemon Let's Go is it kind of brings back the nostalgia, but it's like for the new generation. So you have, on the anime you call him Gary, but then in the game you call him Blue, and he comes in and he's all like, hey, I remember back in the day when I was doing that, but he looks the same. So you wonder, do Pokemon characters really age? Ash has literally been 10 for, when did Pokemon air? 1999? Or 1991? Yeah, 1991, I think. So he should be like 27, but Ash is 10. All the theories we could go into with, he sold a ho-oh. So that means that
that one.
He had the wish, or Ash is in a coma.
Ash is in a coma, yes.
So
it's always one of my favorites.
I know, it's so crazy. No, like that one YouTube video where it literally there's a fan art of Ash, and then there's like dramatic music in the background, and then you have text showing up on the screen saying, "This is the story of Ash being in the coma," and you're like, "Oh my god!" like, the lore of Pokemon is so expansive that you don't know what is canon anymore. Like, are the movies canon or are they not? It's like...
We have Pokemon who bend reality and time right now.
That's true. So you really don't know what's going on. You really are like, okay, what's the real timeline?
I am a god of Pokemon. I created the universe and all creatures. Pokeball, go. I caught him.
Whoa! Oh, man. And then it was recently Mewtwo's birthday. I mean, February 6th is when Mewtwo... But there's also lore behind that. People are always saying, is Mew Mewtwo's mother? Because in the game, it flat out says Mew gave birth to Mewtwo on February 6th in the original games. And then it goes from, in the movie, it's like, no, he was created. He was scientifically
created in the movie.
Yeah. So you're like, which lore is true?
And if that's true, if Mew gave birth to Mewtwo, then why is Mew further up on the Pokemon chart than Mewtwo? Like,
it's like mind-boggling. Because it's either you follow the lore of the video games or the lore of the anime, and you're like,
well, I think Kingdom Hearts could do with an anime. At this point.
I know. I mean, what intrigues me is how they have the Disney characters. I mean, I'm still new to the fandom of Kingdom Hearts, and it's like crazy how they can incorporate the Disney characters. I always have like the Disney Channel on, watching some of the cartoons and everything on Disney Channel. I mean, hey, be an adult, watch some cartoons, you know.
I would do.
But no, they always have like ads for Kingdom Hearts and everything, and you're just like wondering, it's like, why? Why is Mickey... I mean, is that canon? Is that part of the... Do these Disney characters remember what they're going through? Like, when they go back into their universe? Like...
I don't know. I don't want to think about it anymore.
I know. It hurts your mind.
I just watched, like, this 30-minute video of trying to recap the whole lore of Kingdom Hearts, and it was just...
It's crazy.
I couldn't.
It's like, it makes you want to sit down, grab some, like, of course, grab some snacks, but grab your notebook and everything, and just, like, take a crash course on what is Kingdom Hearts, what is the purpose.
Well, like, I have friends who are such Kingdom Hearts fans, like, die hard.
Yeah.
They live and breathe for Kingdom Hearts. And one of them, actually, you may know her name, Erica Harlicker. We've been in a couple of anime together. She had a great tweet that I loved about Kingdom Hearts, and it was, one thing I love about Kingdom Hearts is how consistent they keep the story. The only two people that can use the Keyblade, Sora and everybody else.
It's so true, though.
Yeah.
Oh, Sora. Sora's a bean, okay?
Yeah. And it's so weird to hear Haley Joel Osment pre-puberty in the first one, and then like jump to the next one.
It's like when you're a voice actor and you hear other voice actors, you're like, oh wow.
Yeah.
They grew up. Back in the day.
I'm growing up.
No, it's so true though. It's like when you see younger voice actors and they're really young, and then it's like they go through puberty, and then suddenly you're like, oh my god, I must be really old. But I mean, to talk more about other video games that have a consistent story that makes 100% sense, Spider-Man! Woo! Spider-Man PS4 masterpiece.
Just finished the New Game Plus on Ultimate Difficulty and got the last 2 trophies I needed.
Woo!
I'm done. I'm done with it. That was a trip.
I mean, the thing is with that game, the expansive universe that it has and how it stays so true to the Marvel comics, but then it goes outside of the lore, but adds, like, on top of it.
Absolutely.
Like,
now, before we start, let us warn.
Yes.
Spoilers.
Spoilers! Yes, if you haven't caught up,
spoilers galore.
Stop listening now, because there's going to be... We're both fans of Spider-Man.
Yes. And it's been released, I think, long enough. It's been out for a season, and its DLC is all complete, and people have had chances to play through it. So,
exactly.
If you want to play through it yourself, I will give you a time skip or something.
Yeah, what did you think about it? Overall,
I loved it, absolutely. It was my favorite Spider-Man game, probably one of my favorite PS4 games. It is just fantastic. I loved how they introduced it in kind of in medias res, like 8 years into him being Spider-Man. But it's so interesting how they fiddled with the timeline. So 8 years in, he's already battled Mysterio, Lizard, but we're just starting to see the origins of Doc Ock, and we haven't even seen Green Goblin yet. And
I know.
He's already with Mary Jane, which means, did he ever get with Gwen Stacy? So it creates a new universe that you're familiar with, but gives you a bunch of the mysteries of how does this fit in.
Yeah, and the thing is with me is, like, I really loved how, because, I mean, there's, like, you see the movies, you see the comics and everything, usually it's like, okay, he's becoming Spider-Man. Like you said, it's like he already is Spider-Man. So that new take on it, it's like a letter to the fans saying, you already know the story, here you go, here's another part. But a lot of people loved it, including myself, how they made him in his 20s. I mean, and his growing pains of struggling with a job and trying to find himself. So it was really, like, overall, it was a great experience. And I'm just hoping that, because I know they're making the sequel. I mean, like you said, it can't come fast enough. But,
no,
like,
not.
if Insomniac makes, like, 4 or 5 Spider-Man games, it would be so, like, I'm hoping Miles is, like, the main, like, one of the main in Spider-Man, like, PS4 2. Because, like...
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, his story, too, is really interesting.
DLC?
I have not played the DLC yet, which is shocking.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, yeah, they're hinting that he's going to be a fully fledged spider person by the next game.
Good.
And the funny thing is like, I just replayed it, so I caught a lot of things I didn't catch before, and especially after watching Into the Spider-Verse. I don't know if you saw that one.
I didn't see it, yeah. I'm like, literally, what is wrong with me? Why do I have to catch up on this? Like...
Well, 2 of Miles' main abilities that he has separate from Peter Parker is camouflage and electroshock. And you hear Mary Jane when she's in the room looking at all these radioactive spiders in Norman's penthouse, going, electric shock, camouflage. I'm just like, ooh, he's gonna get his powers.
Hints!
He's gonna get his full powers.
Yeah, and it's like, that's why it would be so smart if they did that, because having him as, like, because you know how we had him and Mary Jane as, like, separate characters to play? It'd be so great to have him as, like, that full-fledged playable character, along with Peter Parker. But people are saying, which worries me, just like it worries me so much with The Last of Us 2, people are saying that, oh, Peter might die. Like, they're like hinting that, oh, like, Spider-Man might die and be replaced with Miles. So that is the canon of Miles' story, unfortunately, in any iteration you find. So I'm hoping they kind of change that, because I'm not going to be able to handle that, as if you've seen my playthrough, you saw how I handled Aunt May dying.
I did.
Oh my god. Okay, so to get on that topic, one of the only critiques that I had over the entire story of the game was how and why did they have to kill off the precious Aunt May that she was. I mean, I understand it kind of, like, added more to Peter's character and made him more like how he is, like, later on in the comics, but how she just got killed off, and then it goes from that to time skip. Instead, like, my emotions changed. It went from hysterically crying to wanting to be happy for him and Mary Jane, and it's all like, I can't feel right now, and it just ends like that.
So I think I get why, from a narrative perspective. The whole story was about who he looked up to, you know, people he looked up to that he inevitably couldn't rely on anymore for one reason or another, be it just the fact that they changed, or they had something secret about them, or the fact that they wouldn't be there forever. And, you know, you see that through Martin Lee, Doc Ock, and Aunt May. And in the next game, it's going to be very interesting. The theme they're going to have to tackle is now Peter Parker is on his own. He has no supervising adult. He has nobody to look up to, and he is going to rely completely on his own facilities. So that's going to be an interesting, and that's going to be for Miles as well, probably. He has his mother, but
that
he's going to be...
scene with his dad, like...
How Which is interesting, because in his canon... Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, how
canon, God dang it.
Okay, I'll go for it.
People who like to talk.
Okay, so how Peter, like, comforted him at the funeral, it was he's like, oh, I understand, and how Miles, it's so human. Like, the story of video games nowadays compared to how they used to be, it's so human because you felt it. Like, it's so relatable.
Yeah, and Miles just like, well, especially Miles just retorting with, I've heard it all, and anybody who's gone through this process probably has heard all that before, and far be it from them to go with that cliche in such a grounded story like this.
Yep.
Yeah, it was so hard hitting.
Yeah. But anyway, what were you saying?
I was trying to say. I'm so ADD.
I know.
But that's it. The interesting thing with Miles, though, is that in his lore, it's his uncle that passes away, who he's closer with, Aaron Davis. And if you saw Spider-Man: Homecoming, that's who Donald Glover plays.
Yeah. So I mean, it was interesting how they changed it.
But they changed it to his father, but they did mention on the newscast he leaves behind his son and his brother Aaron.
Oh God!
I'm just like,
it's like, is Miles gonna have to lose him too? Like in the game,
no, because in the comics, before he passes, Aaron's also another villain. He's a supervillain.
Yeah. So, man.
It's
gonna be like, yeah.
He may be a surprise. I'm theorizing. This is just a theory.
Yeah, exactly.
A game theory. He's going to be a villain in Spider-Man 2.
I mean, and with Venom. I mean, you saw with the ending of Spider-Man PS4 how they hinted at that.
Yeah.
That was
Harry.
Yeah, that was.
I noticed you missed that in your YouTube. I'm sure the comments were.
Oh yeah, they were like, "What the heck? You missed it!" I'm like, "Oops." But it was so like that whole moment. It was like so dark at that part. Like the reveal, it was just like, "What the heck?" Like, oh my God, like how it made you feel at that scene. Like how they even touched on a lot of like illnesses within the game too. Like a lot of the villains, some of them had cancer, some of them had like spinal issues. Like they added so much personal things to a video game and to the lore of Spider-Man that it's like, oh my God. But like it was so dark because he's like, how with his love for his son, he wanted to do this for him, and then suddenly what's gonna happen.
It is.
I'm scared.
I'm gonna be interested. Like, are we gonna get a? I'm just so interested how they're gonna go about it, because are we gonna get a symbiote Green Goblin? Are we going to get a? I don't know.
And the thing is, there's so much that they could pick from. I mean, they added so much of the original Marvel lore to this game that if they're doing the sequel, they could add even more. Plus with the DLCs.
Yeah, that's another thing about the whole Aunt May passing thing. As long as Spider-Man PS4 2 stays far away from the One More Day story, we are not doing the deal with the devil. I'm sorry.
Absolutely not. Like, please avoid that.
We do not do that story.
We do not do that.
Like Peter even said an offshoot line in like Swinging By. He's like, God, so much crime in New York. I wish I had a clone. I'm like
no,
no,
Peter,
no clone
boy,
saga, no clone saga.
Oh my God! Like, please, Insomniac Games, we're begging you, don't go down that lane.
No. Like, did you ever read One More Day?
I have read part of it. I haven't finished it yet, but
yeah.
From what I've read, I'm like,
yeah, he gives up his marriage to the devil for the sake of bringing May back, who was just like, no, May was like, no, let me go. It's my time.
Dedication.
I'll save you.
Dedication to your aunt. The love of somebody's aunt. What do we take away from Spider-Man? Love your aunts if they're as nice and precious as Aunt May.
Yes. She was so precious. She was the best character.
Hold on, like, PS4, like, did you see how kind she was? Like, they had to do that to your heart. Like, they had to literally be like, okay, here's this precious being who's taking care of the homeless, who is dedicating her life to, that scene when she gives Peter the money. Like, when she's like, don't ask about it, do not ask about it. She's like, you know what, you have the Parker pride. It's like, just take it. And it's like, it's so relatable, but
and
she's
then later
so
when
nice.
She's, like, feeling weak, she sits down and says, let me get a chance to nurse my wounded Parker pride. Just like, oh.
I know. And you're just like, Aunt May, you precious bean. Why? And the whole time I'm like, hashtag Aunt May Protection Squad. And the next thing I know, I'm like, oh, that ending. Just, And it's like,
now here's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the ending, because I played through the game twice. The first time I streamed it on Twitch,
Mm-hmm.
and the second time on the New Game Plus, I just sat down myself and played through it.
Yeah.
I felt the emotional impact a lot more just sitting down and playing through it myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I felt like I'll admit, I didn't cry when the first time I played through it, but the second time I did. Even knowing it was going to happen, like, it was interesting. So do you get that, like, when you're like, you have a very visceral, emotional, raw reaction to things? So
I mean, there's a big difference, like, when you are very invested to the story and can relate to the characters compared to, because I haven't done much streaming. I've done like 2 live streams in the course of my career on YouTube. I mean, I've hosted events for other companies before, but on YouTube, on the channel itself, I haven't done much streaming. But there's a big fine line between when you're playing story games, when you're streaming, compared to when you're doing, like, Let's Plays or anything. You get emotionally, like, the raw attachment to the characters are there compared to when you're streaming, because you're sitting down and you're, like, even if you're filming yourself doing it, you're alone with these characters and you feel for them.
Right. Yeah, like, I think it was just a little bit of, like, the 10% of my brain that had to be interactive with the chat that kind of pulled me out of it. But like, there are a lot of games that I would like to stream, but I almost just kind of want to experience them without that distraction.
I mean, what I always tell people is, like, if you're going to stream a story game, play through the story game yourself first and then stream it.
Okay, yeah.
Because, I mean, it's a huge difference. Because, like, with people say with the game Life is Strange, if people end up streaming it, they get distracted by the chat. And the problem with getting distracted by the chat is you get distracted from the story.
Yeah. And I'm still playing through the first one element.
Oh my god, it's gonna emotionally destroy you.
I know, and I'm so relatable. These characters are so relatable.
I know!
Northwest, and I'm just like, I've known people like this. I've known friends like this. Exactly like this.
You also have, whatchamacallit, Before the Storm. Have you played Captain Spirit yet?
No.
Before the Storm is very, like, I mean, this is the thing between comparing characters. I mean, when you're playing as Max, it's a totally different experience than when you're playing as Chloe. Because Max and Chloe are poles apart with their personalities. So when you're playing as Chloe and Before the Storm, it's completely different. Like, you get a whole different perspective on the world that is Life is Strange. The universe expands, and you're just like, oh my god.
Alright.
You're gonna enjoy it, though. It's one of the games I always request people do play, but, I mean, with Spider-Man, if people have not played it yet, please do. You need to play it. It's like, if you love Marvel, even if you're not, like, knowledgeable about the comics, it's a good place to really start. I mean, some things people might not understand, like excitable about some of the villains that showed up or some of the lore that's there, but it does its best to really explain it to you. So,
I feel so, yeah. And I'm hoping, like, I'm hoping the next game will be Spider-Man 2 from Insomniac.
Yeah. I mean,
however, I'm hoping beyond that, between that and Spider-Man 3, because we know they are going to probably do more, maybe they'll branch out to, I don't know,
Iron Man?
Fantastic Four, Iron Man.
No, listen, I have been saying this for years because Iron Man is my boy. That's my favorite superhero. Literally, they need to make Insomniac, if it's going to be anybody, it should be Insomniac. Because there is an Iron Man game, but it's okay, but it's not like how Insomniac would make how Spider-Man was. Because it's like, there's so much they could explore, because, you know, with Homecoming and everything, they could even add Peter Parker to Iron Man's game. Or they can have references, like, the Avengers, because I hear there's, like, an Avengers project that people are working on. But, like, it's so, like, Insomniac, if we're gonna, like, have a letter to Insomniac, it'd be, like, focus on these video games that are focusing on the Marvel universe.
Yes.
Because
I
it's
hope they
Captain
get to expand
America
beyond.
and everything, like, oh my god. It would be so cool.
It's interesting because I don't know if they're allowed to use any of you notice they had the Avengers Tower, they had a lot of these hints.
Yeah.
But they really couldn't use the names of a lot of them, or he didn't use the names of a lot of them. He said, "I know a guy with a shield," and then he goes to the,
that's actually good to point out.
Yeah, he goes to the the Sanctorum, or whatever it is called, the Doctor Strange sanctuary.
Yeah.
And says something strange always seems to happen in there. And he picks up a card from Murdoch and and Nelson, the Daredevil, and he says, a blind lawyer gave this to me. And
yeah, so either they're dropping hints and don't want to actually say, because if Spider-Man himself is going to
be a licensing issue,
or that it could also be that, but like or is to hope as the fans would be like just dropping hints of where they're going to go and expand, because it would be so
where the heck are the Avengers in this whole thing?
I know.
Their tower is right there.
It's literally right there.
I'm beating up Sable agents in front of your tower, guys. Do I need to ring
Please
the
help!
3 times?
Oh, but it would be so cool. I mean, like, if they're allowed, because that's the thing, licensing is a huge issue. So, I mean, if they're allowed to do that, I mean, Iron Man game, I mean, Captain America game, or just Avengers in general, I mean, it would be so great. I mean, to expand this, to just, like, you can't really expand on one game unless you're gonna literally, like, add on so many downloadable content to it. So, people are saying that this might be, like, the last DLC that came out for Spider-Man, but Spider-Man 2 is gonna come. So, it's, like, how many DLC, since they saw this huge amount of success for Spider-Man 1 for the PS4, how it's gonna be to expand for how many DLCs there's gonna be in Spider-Man 2 for the sequel, like...
Yeah, I'm just a little worried they're going to release it on the PS5.
Oh, true. That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, if we're talking smart with marketing, that kind of be smart, because that'll get people to buy it, but, there's some people out there who can't afford that kind of stuff. That's what people are saying about, like, Last of Us 2 and Death Stranding and everything, that it's going to be PS5.
I'm thinking Last of Us 2 may be a cross-platform launch day release, kind of like how they did with Breath of the Wild with Switch and Wii U. So it'll be on both PS4 and PS5 available.
Okay. All right, but to go on to the next game we're going to talk about, let's talk about God of War.
Yes.
Now, I know you love God of War.
Not going to be until the next generation.
Okay, so...
I love God of War. I think I'm going to rate that my top PS4 game right now. Like, Spider-Man comes in at a close second, but God of War was one of my favorite experiences
so with
of the past
God
year.
of War, I mean... I, for one, am the type of person that's into lighthearted, quirky type of games, but there is something about this game that connected with me right away, and it was the sense of family. It wasn't just about Kratos destroying everything, Spartan rage here and there. It was about a relationship between him and his son. And that was
such a paradigm shift.
It's so amazing how they did that, because I haven't played the original God of War games, but I've heard about them for over the years, and also a lot of people have told me about the lore.
They're fun for an angsty teenager who's trying to live out a power fantasy, but
That's a perfect way to describe it.
It was Edge before Edge was Edge.
Yeah, exactly.
He was the original edgelord.
Like on for Unlock the Lore, I talk about edgelords with watching Yu-Gi-Oh when you're growing up.
Oh, now, if you want edgelord, like Yu-Gi-Oh season 0, season 1, like oh my gosh,
so much edge.
Yugi, you just killed that person. Yugi, he dead. Like, I'm sorry,
gone.
but
I'm sorry, Yugi. It's like what I always say is like, oh, Yugi, Yu-Gi-Oh, oh, Yugi.
Oh, Yugi.
Because that's like, if like with people, like even now, it's like if you're gonna play Spider-Man, you're gonna play the original God of War games. There's totally different personalities there. Or it's like when you're growing up, are you gonna watch Yu-Gi-Oh? Or you're gonna watch Pokemon? So it's either you got the quirkiness that sometimes touches
Digimon.
Or Digimon.
Like in my school it was Pokemon versus Digimon.
I know, but the thing is with Digimon, I mean, it was kind of even a little more darker than Pokemon. If you've noticed, there's a little. It was like kind of like the in between Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, it was kind of the 0.5.
But no, with God of War, like the story, that's what it is. I mean, how Cory Barlog actually directed it, it came directly from his heart, from his whole team's entire heart, and you felt that. And as somebody
his
like
experience with fatherhood too,
exactly. And did you see his YouTube video? His note to when people were giving him reviews, and he made like a YouTube video thanking everybody.
No, I didn't.
He cries. This man is so humble and kind, and he is so dedicated to the series and its characters, and you feel that in the game. And as somebody, yeah, and as somebody like me who like really kind of avoids like darker type of games, that game I automatically loved because of its story, because you felt that humbleness.
Yeah, that was, again, such a paradigm shift for his character, having grown up on the rage-filled kind of character that he was. And to see this humanity in him, and just what they were able to do. And like what I always
like to point out with people is, do you see the moment whenever he reaches out to Atreus? Like,
yes, every time.
At every little moment, he wants to like say something to his son or act like a father and just reach out to him and say like, "Good job," or "I'm here for you to comfort you." He can't.
Or even just put his hand on his shoulder to connect with him. He wants to just connect with him in that way. And
he's just I think it's because of his whole father angst, you know, with with the Kratos' backstory and everything. So I mean, maybe it's that, or maybe he just wants to make sure it's tough love, you know? It's that type of, like, it's not, like, how nowadays I always say with people, you gotta give tough love to people, because if you don't, they're gonna grow up thinking that they are gonna expect everything. Just like in that scene, too, with Atreus, when he's like, oh, I'm a god, I could do whatever I want. Kratos was like, boy, you're going through puberty right now, go in the timeout chair. It's like, it was so human. It's like the situations they're going through may not be human, but the relationship is human. It's that tough love where but no, dude, Atreus shoots Kratos. He shoots him in the arm with an arrow, and you're like I say to people.
I was expecting Kratos to backhand him.
Oh, I know, but it's like, Atreus, you're a chicken nugget, but you became that spicy chicken nugget right in that scene. Like, you need some Wendy's right now. Like, what the? Like, come on, like, you're supposed to get mad, you're supposed to feel that, like, you're supposed to love Atreus. I mean, some people were actually, oh, he annoys me and everything at that scene, but it was supposed to do that to you, because he's like a tween. I don't even know how old he is. He's like, at that scene, you're like, oh, somebody went through puberty there.
But that's the thing, at the end, when they do the time skip, you see many years later, and he looks the same.
He looks the same.
But we do know his true identity, though, so
I know.
Let's say, again, spoilers.
Spoilers! If you haven't caught up to God of War, which again, it's been out long enough, so spoilers have.
I have to say, I am in love with the setting, with the whole Norse mythology world they've created. Because afterwards, I just picked up 5 books on Norse mythology, like the original Prose Edda, the Poetic Edda, Neil Gaiman's book on Norse mythology, the Viking spirits, just all these different books. And just been plowing through it, and just how they were able to incorporate things, shift it around, is so amazing.
And to stay true to everything, too.
And to stay true to everything, and now with the reveal of Atreus.
I know!
I'm so intrigued in what that means going forward for the story.
Scared. I am so scared for Atreus, because it's like, you love him and he's a chicken nugget, but as he gets older, it's like, you know that he's Loki, and you know what happens with that. And
but that was amazing how they hid his mother's identity, because the mother is Fae, but in the original Norse books, it's Laufey. So it was there. It was there all along.
Yep,
like,
and it's
just
like
that hint.
Everyone it's just the hints that they gave, and you're like, oh.
His mother was a great huntress. I'm just like,
why couldn't I figure this out in the beginning?
They just hit it so beautifully. They did it so smartly with all that.
But at the end, when when you see the prophecy on the wall, I mean, Kratos. What's gonna happen to that? Like, if Loki ends up killing Kratos and everything, it's no.
I'm intrigued in that, because you also saw what looked like the Jormungandr coming out of his mouth.
Yeah.
And the Jormungandr is the child of Loki.
So it's
but that's also the thing, is that the Hrothvitnir, the Great Wolf, is also the child of Loki, but they also mentioned that he exists in this, so I have no idea.
I know, it's like, you don't know what's gonna happen, and it's like, from a standpoint of loving the characters and loving Kratos, like, Papa Kratos, if you have to verse your own son, how tragic is that gonna be? I mean, he already lost his daughter, You know, like...
Yeah.
I don't want him to lose his son, too, but I also don't want Kratos to die.
Well, I don't think they will, because
he's like the trademark, iconic character that is God of War.
But he's also the bridge. Like, at this
True.
point, he's the bridge. To have somebody pulled from Norse mythology be the bridge for all the other mythologies they're going to explore, that could be interesting.
Yeah.
But since they've already started that journey with Kratos, I don't think they would.
True.
They would end it with him, or they would move it on to anybody else.
And I hear they're gonna make 4 or 5 games. I
think yes.
That's
they mentioned
so
4
awesome.
games. Yeah, we've already got the hints that they're going to go to Egypt. I think it was a Gaelic Trinity they had on there. So, Dad, I wanna face the Baelor and the.
Oh my god.
And the Dullahan. I want a Dullahan battle. Oh my
Okay,
gosh.
okay, can I ask you something? What if God of War was VR? How awesome would that be?
Oh boy. Now here's one I don't know how that would work with the combat. That would be really weird. Like, cuz you're just shooting all across the map with these like dash attacks, so that would be so disorienting. One interesting one that would be for VR, like if they could get the whole perspective, like the 360 perspective down and the peripheral vision taken out. Shadow of the Colossus.
That would be interesting.
Imagine being able to look up and get the full scale
that would
of
actually
a Colossus
be,
from your perspective.
Because if you think about it, that would actually be perfect because it's all about the journey and exploring and everything. So, I mean, that's perfect for VR.
Well, I don't know.
And then the big dudes are there.
Yeah, the problem is like it would be good for a showcase because if you're playing Shadow of the Colossus, basically your entire vision would be buried in giant Colossus fur butt. Like it's your field of vision would be taken up by Colossus. While
maybe like a story type of showcase instead of playing it, just kind of. Yeah. But I mean, with God of War, I mean, this is the thing. With VR, you gotta be careful, because it's like you're in your room, and the next thing you know, you could be wandering off in the street somewhere. That would be kind of like God of War, where it's like with Pokemon Go, they have tragic stories of people ended up like somewhere random, and you're like, these poor kids, they just want to catch the Pokemon.
Okay, I'll admit a funny story from when Pokemon Go first came out.
Oh no.
There was this IKEA near us, and
IKEA.
And I was walking down the street, and I looked on the radar. There was a Zapdos in the IKEA.
Yes!
And I was like, oh, I'm going to go in. But it was closing down. And I was just like, no. Okay, and I saw the warehouse or the garage open. So I was just, like, so tempted to walk in and pretend like I belonged there. Just to pretend I was a worker and just be like, hey, guys.
How you doing?
Lifting stuff. I'm just going to go check out over. I need to go use the restroom. Get this Zapdos and get the frick out of here.
Did you end up doing it?
No, because as soon as I looked out, as soon as I formulated this plan, I
no, I would have made you do. I would have literally been like, dude, do it now. Go. I'll go with you. I'll keep watch. It's a Zapdos. Come on.
I know.
Did you ever catch Zapdos ever again, or was that the only chance?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh man, but it's like the stories of people ended up in people's backyards randomly. Like the kids knocking on people's doors, say, "There's a Pikachu in your yard. Can we go and get it?" And it's like, okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
So I mean, like VR with God of War.
As long as it's not an Ekans, that's okay.
With God of War with VR, I mean, like, they would have to make it where it's, like, kind of static, and you don't have to move around that much, because if you're versing all those things, like the big dragon and everything, I mean, you're gonna have to stay in one spot instead of, like, knocking over all the vases and couches and everything.
Yeah, you're pretty much just gonna have to use the chains.
True.
You just keep throwing the chains like a, I don't know, like a ping pong or yo-yo or something.
I mean, because like that would be awesome for showcase too if it was just to see the lore and the world and everything. But with
VR's got a lot of good opportunities for stuff, and I would love to see some of these games. But again, it's the mechanics of it.
Yeah.
You're in first person and you're the field of view. You can't change it. So.
I mean, but it's cool. I mean, with I don't think Spyro would really work for VR unless it was again just showing the worlds. But I mean, Spider-Man would. But imagine
would be amazing.
Imagine
if disorienting probably.
Because I remember when VR kind of first came out, and it was more like you had to move around. Like, do you remember the Kinect for the Xbox?
Oh, yeah.
It's like you had to move around. I remember, okay, this one game, it was all about like bonding with a chicken nugget with like a little kid and going on this adventure with him, and people were like, "Oh, this is so cool! Oh my god!" But then the Kinect kind of just like went out of business and everything. Yeah. But I mean, you had like Just Dance for the Kinect. You had the Michael Jackson Experience for the Kinect. But it was all about the Disney body scan. And no, but like, and a lot of people I've heard use for motion capture now. Whether it's for voice acting or for just animation in general, they use Kinects. Like, people buy old Kinects and use that for, like, motion capture.
Yeah, they've kind of repurposed them. I don't know if they're standard issue. I think there's a lot more sophisticated motion capture technology.
Oh, yeah.
But for the time being, it was kind of like how the Pokemon Walker at the time being was the most advanced speedometer at the time, or the most advanced odometer at the time. Like, it was the most accurate in tracking steps than anything on the market.
Yep.
So,
I think everyone just got it, even if they weren't a fan of Pokemon. It's like, let's just get this thing.
Yeah. But I think with the Kinect, they did repurpose them for motion capture for a lot of performance at the time. But since then, I'm sure
definitely.
they've come up with something a lot better.
I mean, back in the heyday.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, with VR too, if we're gonna talk about how far it's come, I mean, it went from just being an idea in like the early 90s. People thought of VR.
Oh yeah, VR back in my day was the Nintendo Virtual Boy. That was our version of VR back then.
And now you could just draw. And now you could just draw on the VR. I mean, that's so cool though. I mean, I saw somebody. I mean, Jazza. Or Draw with Jazza, he drew it like from Attack on Titan, literally a Titan, and it looked like it was just there in front of you, and you're like in this universe in the VR where you could just be with your drawings. It's so cool.
That's awesome.
I'm
really excited to see the future of it. Of course, limited on technology a little bit because it requires a lot more disk space to run these things.
It's very true. But yeah, I mean, that was our chat about video games and how far they have come and affected many people's lives. And, I mean, if you guys want us to chat about any other topics, just let us know. There's going to be an episode every single Sunday, probably 4 episodes a month. And if you guys really enjoyed, give it a like, subscribe, and share it. We were probably going to get this on other, like, podcast sites as well, so you can check us out on possibly iTunes and all those fun... Maybe even, I think Spotify, maybe. I mean, that's a good place for podcasting now. So, yeah. We hope you guys enjoyed. And, yeah, you guys
Thank you very much.
You keep staying geeky, my friends, and playing these video games. Yes. But thanks, guys, and you have an awesome day.
Yes, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.